How has it been for you?
I came from a very low moment in my life. These phases have been constantly going on. I didn't feel in this moment I was gonna get another high in my life. I didn't understand that. So that's when he introduced me into the cycle. But once you understand them, was a game changer for me. We all go through these phases. Everyone goes through them. Most people fail at phase 3. But after that, what happened, it will repeat again. And I will make sure my family will never ever experience this. So people quit so fast as well most of the times. And they just stop the opportunity. Then they go into something we call...
Ever start something new that you have really this electric feeling that you're like ready to go, you're super excited, you're super ready to really dive into it. Maybe it's a business, maybe it's a goal, maybe it's something new in your life and you get so excited, but then while you're doing it, actually you get these emotional phases and you think you're failing, but actually you're going through certain phases. So in today's Black Box episode, we're going to talk about how the 5 stages of entrepreneurship actually work. And I'm very interested, Luke, in the 4.5 years of your career in this industry. How has it been for you?
So interesting you asked me this question because obviously when I was preparing everything for this, and actually the first time I got to know about this was in the beginning of my journey. So actually in I think 6 or 7 days, I'm 5 years in the business.
Whoa.
So around 5 years ago, somebody told me about these 5 phases. And honestly, most of the time you won't understand them till you really go through them, right? That's how most of the things go in life, right? You first have to sometimes experience it instead of having the information.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just start with my story a little bit because I know a lot of people know my story. A lot of people don't know my story. But in my story, it's so funny because these phases have been constantly going on, right? They even went on before I started seeing the phases, but then I was just not aware of it, right? So everybody goes through this because most people think everything in life and growth itself is linear, right? But it actually always goes through cycles. Everything in life goes through cycles. So where did it start for me? Well, 2020, I thought my life was pretty good, right? So I was playing professional sports and handball. I was going to go and qualify for under 18 team. I was doing international tournaments most of the time, and we most times won, and I was growing, so I was going very good. I did have some problems at that time because I didn't really ever had problems in my life, but that was the first time it really showed up, right? So what happened is I came to a point where I was almost going to go to under 18, and I was very excited. I was like, okay, this is going to be very easy. This is going to be an amazing start of my big journey into becoming a professional handball player. But what eventually happened is COVID came, right?
Yeah, I can remember.
That was a hard time. So not only did COVID take away my sports, so I couldn't play sports, I also broke my collarbone. So that was also not nice. So I couldn't go into under 18. Then also my job, I didn't make any money with it. I still had to go to my job, by the way. That was interesting. So I worked at a shoe store. I had to put in all the boxes in the back. Well, there was no people coming into the store. But yeah, I was also just getting paid for the first 2 months of COVID. After that, I didn't get paid at all. Lost my job, lost my income, lost my sports. Then the gym got closed. And then I was also doing my driver license. And that also got cut off just before I was going to get my test, right? Now, this wasn't really where the phases started. But eventually, I came into a point where I got a lot of depression. I started doing a lot of things God has forbidden. And then FTP came on my path, right? So that came on my path in December 2020. And it's actually funny because that's where the first phase starts, where we're going to talk about in a few seconds. But when I got started with this business and everything was introduced to me, I was living in just like when you were a kid. As you were a kid and you were looking up to the sky, and I was always dressing up myself, like as an astronaut or as about to plop, like those kinds of things. And I dressed myself as an astronaut. I look at the stars and I really believed I could just fly there one day, And the same thing happened when I got started with this business is I had set myself a vision and I put myself into reality where I was dreaming, which is good. But yeah, everybody knows when you start something, you will have certain phases you go through, but also moments where things are going to go hard. I really believed in that first year, I was going to get out of the system, become successful, and all my problems would be solved, which obviously didn't happen. And later on also frustrated me a lot. And also at many times almost kept me from staying in the business. It almost made me quit until I got the training from a mentor. And that's when I understood everything. Now I got the training while I was in the first phase. And after that, it just became so easy to stay in the business and to just keep going because I recognize every single stage after that. So that's how it started for me, and that's how everything went for me. Because in the beginning, you come into this first phase, which I'm going to talk about in a second, which is everything just seems like everything is going to go perfect. You're so excited, and you're living in more hype than actual reality, right? Yeah. But that's how it started for me, and that's how I got into mainly the phases of entrepreneurship, and I got to know it from there.
Okay, nice. Why was it so important for you to really understand these phases?
It's actually really a great question that you're actually asking, because in the beginning of my journey was very important to me, because I came from a very low moment, right? Doing things God has forbidden, also not being able to go to school, not doing sports, all those kinds of stuff. I didn't feel in this moment I was going to get another high in my life. But when this opportunity came, I mean, my results didn't change, but it was a high in my life that came because I wanted higher highs from there. But I was so scared to fall back into like lower lows and go into lower lows for the rest of my life that I had to understand these phases. But how I got to understand it is very simple. It's when my two mentors quit the business, eventually their mentor became my mentor. So I asked him, I was like, hey, I want to become like you. I need to know exactly how you did it. And he said, first and foremost, it's very simple. He said, winners never quit and quitters never win. He said, look, if you want to win in business, all you have to do is just not quit. And in my head, I was like, yeah, but I've had many times in my life that I quit. I was like, okay, why shouldn't I quit? Why do people quit at certain moments? I didn't understand that. So that's when he introduced me into the cycles. And like I said before already, is if you know them, actually, if you really understand them, and for all the people listening, after this podcast, they should actually really never quit, because they will know that success is always guaranteed if you go through these cycles, these phases in the right way, and you can just understand that they all have to do with your emotions. But yeah, people find it hard to control emotions because we all make decisions based on emotions.
True.
But once you understand them, was a game changer for me. So that's why I also am here, because that's why I never quit.
Okay, so if we really listen carefully about what you're going to say and what you're going to share with us, then at the end of this podcast, we all know exactly how we can really achieve that success going through these phases, right?
100%.
Can you tell me a little bit more already before we dive into it about these phases and what it actually can do, like what it did in your journey?
Yeah, so it's called actually the emotional cycle of change, right?
Okay.
Because if you want to have new things in life, you always need to change. Just like a caterpillar obviously needs change to become a butterfly, right?
True, yeah.
So we see this also in the seasons in life, is that if a tree wants to grow its new leaves, it has to go through some change and through some seasons, right? So the emotional cycle of change has 5 phases that you go through, right?
Yeah.
Which is definitely important for people to write down, because after this I'm going to go into them in depth. So the first phase is uninformed optimism. The second phase is informed pessimism. The third phase, the least nicest phase, is the valley of despair. After that, you get into informed optimism. And then the fifth phase is success and is wealth and is results, which we all want to go through.
Yes.
But what people need to understand before I also go into it is that we all go through these phases. Everyone goes through them. And also, when they listen to all the phases, they will also understand other human beings so much more, because most people fail at phase 3. Okay. That's why they quit.
Okay, so actually what you're saying is if we really listen carefully, we go through the phases and we can never skip a phase.
No,
right?
We can never skip them.
Okay, now I'm very interested because like the phase 5, like success and wealth and everything, I think everybody is listening to podcasts or like developing themselves to achieve success in some kind of way or form. And if we go through all the stages, then phase 5, we have success, right?
It's going to happen regardless. So if you go through them, it will happen regardless. But I'm also going to talk about what to do in each phase, why people fail in most phase where they most people fail, like I said, because it's also not that people go through phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and when they go through phase 3, which is the hardest one, that at stage 4 they instantly have success, right? Or they instantly are gonna just let life go there. It's not that the cycle is gonna bring you there. It's you need to do the right things in the cycle to get yourself there. That's the most important thing. But are you ready for the first stage?
I'm very much ready. Yes, I'm ready.
So it's a stage, but you can also see it as a phase, right? So the first phase is what we call uninformed optimism. Well, let's look at the word, right?
Yeah.
You're very uninformed. So when I started this business, like I already told you, I remember very good is my mentors back then, they had the crypto room. So when I went to the office, we had first a very big office, so everything was open. But after we went one level below, and there was rooms. So my two mentors had this office, and the everything was closed. So the windows were closed. I don't know how you call the things before, but they were closed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was completely dark in there. They always have their hoodie on, so they always had hoodies on. They had it over their heads. They had shisha there back then, PlayStation, but also they had these LED lights, right, that they had going on in the top of the room. So I came there. I remember the first time I came there was like 8 a.m. in the morning. That was my first time I really got into that office, and I was just watching videos all day. But no one had ever talked to me about vision. So I was already excited when I got started, because that's what you have in the first phase, right? You're living in optimism, which believes that you just believe in everything. There's no doubt in your mind going on about believing in something. So what happened is they talked to me about what they were going through with their goals. So one said, yeah, I'm going to, and he already showed me, I'm going to buy this $7 million villa in Sweden. And then my other mentor told me, he said like, hey, I'm going to buy this $12 million penthouse in New York. And he already showed me the amount of money that they were making with crypto. So what happened with me is I was like, okay, I didn't know about this whole journey, what I had to go through. I was watching videos. I was like, okay, this year I will be a millionaire. This year I will have all the success. So what happens in that moment is you live very in a unrealistic world. But we all know, and Niels, our mentor, teaches us this, that it's not bad to dream big. It's not bad to be delusional.
True.
But you should always go back to a certain level of reality. And at that moment, I was like, oh, it's going to be easy. Right? Trading, I made, with my demo account, I made in my first 2 months, $60,000 on a $100,000 account. It's demo, by the way. So it was like good money.
Yeah.
That's also why I quit school and work and my professional sport. I went all in with the business, which was also good. So in some way, being uninformed is good. Then when I got to hear about building the business, I was also like, okay, I'm going to show everybody what I'm doing. But what happened is I went very fast into phase 2. I went very fast into it, honestly.
Okay.
Which I'm going to talk about in a second. But in phase 1, you're just uninformed. So you don't know what you don't know. This is why it's important to listen to the people in the business, because they will probably tell you, hey, it won't be easy, right? So did you ever do boxing or something?
No, I never did boxing.
Okay. So I did boxing once, right?
Yeah.
And it's like an example. Let's say I went boxing and my coach would have told me nothing, no expectations, and I come into the boxing ring and I get slapped and I look at him, I'm like, why did I get slapped? That would be weird, right?
Yeah.
So I think also what we really do good in FTP, but what my mentor did good with me is he told me, he said, Luke, just so you know, dream big, but know you are going to face challenges. Now, like it says, it's uninformed. So I was first and foremost uninformed. And even if your mentor says you're going to have challenges, you still have no idea about what you're going to face, right?
Yeah.
So just better be ready for it.
So even if you get like good expectations, you're still probably uninformed.
Yes.
Okay.
Because...
So it's not the mentor's fault.
No, it's never the mentor's fault, because if they set the right expectations, what happens, they set the expectation that something will happen.
Yeah.
How you respond to what happens, that is up to you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But they also all went through that already, but everybody experiences down moments other than other people, right? So next to that, I lived in optimism, right? So I was very optimistic about everything in life. So someone told me like 2 years ago, the difference between being positive and being optimistic. So positive is when a bird shits on your car and you're sitting in the car and you're like, oh, you know, everything happens for a reason. It's okay. It's fine. You know, that's being positive. Like, hey, it can happen. But being optimistic is saying, I will never, ever, ever have a bird shit on my car ever again. And the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right. So then people would say, but yeah, it's not bad to be optimistic. No, that's true. But being uninformed optimistic can sometimes be a tough cookie. Yeah. Now, the same thing is with building the business. If you go on every call and let's say you would already be informed because you will have hard moments, you have people say no, then most people get insecure. Most people say, hey, this doesn't work. So they will come with a pessimistic perspective to the call. But being optimistic means the next call is going to be my next director. And once again, the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right. So that is the first phase that someone goes into. And most people here, like the biggest mistake they make is that they are very much in more hype energy right? So they're in a lot of hype and a lot of motivation. But in this phase, the biggest mistake people make is they don't make commitment. That's the biggest mistake people ever make. And I will explain to you later, therefore, why people quit in phase 2 and also in phase 3.
You talk about the hype in this phase that a lot of people have in uninformed optimism. And what I also see in the network marketing industry sometimes is that it's very much built on hype. And what can you say about like people having an uninformed optimism phase and people just doing like only focusing on the hype instead of the commitment? Because you said like it's about not making a commitment in this phase. You're going to talk about it later, so maybe you want to keep the secret for later. But how would you say it works around this area?
Yeah, so obviously when people are in hype, they're really excited. So it's a very strong energy that can sometimes really take over for someone, right?
Yeah.
And most people in hype, in that moment, they just make only decisions based on their emotion that they have in the moment. But we all know emotions are temporary.
True.
So you should know in everything you do, hype will always go away, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at the word commitment says doing what you say you were going to do long after the feeling has left, you set the commitment in. So for most people, because they only make the committed decision out of hype, then when the hype is gone, there's no commitment left anymore.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important. And that's what you mainly see in this industry is most people, but honestly, to be honest, it's not this industry. It's every area of life. It can be relationships, it can be studies, it can be sports, it can be business, it can be any business model. And I've seen it for the past 5 years now, that if you don't make a committed decision next to you, the hype and next to the energy, you will never actually make it in this business. Or it's not that you won't make it, you won't survive the cycle. That's a better one.
Is it also so that when like the hype or like the feeling goes away, that you move to the next phase?
I would say in the beginning, you can still have hype, but most people lose the hype because the second phase is too strong for them, right? So what happens in the second phase changes their emotion, while they can keep the same emotion, but most people learned, and that's also how we got programmed, that once things go wrong, right? So let me give an example on that so you can understand it more. When you're at school and you have to do a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously you want to do good, because
Yeah.
if you do good, you get praised for it. So we as human beings from psychology, we want to get praised. So when we do good things, we think life is going good. When things are going wrong, you also get punished for it, right? So we live in a reward and punishment system. So in phase 2, which we're going to go in a second, is where you get your first few losses in trading, for example.
Yeah.
Your first few people that say no. And of course, in such a moment, for most people, negative emotions are stronger than their positive emotions. Because the same thing, we don't have to train ourselves to feel or think negative. That happens, right? But we have to train ourselves, most people, to feel good and to think positively. So when you're in all this hype, you're excited, you do your own home event, and then 15 people come, say they come, then only 10 people come, and everybody says it's a scam. Yeah, most of the times that affects people's energy completely. So then the hype goes away because the fear now, doubt, is stronger.
Okay, so if we go like, what was phase 2 again?
So phase 2 is a funny phase, right? So let's say you got started, right, in phase 1. So you started with network marketing and with trading, or network marketing and UGC. Let's say you got started with this, then your mentor tells you probably about Director. Then your mentor tells you about the Hunger Games incentive, about the Platinum Bootcamp. You see all these videos, and you think by yourself, oh, easy, I'll make my list and I'll go for it, right?
Yeah.
Which is good. It's a good energy. Now, even still, you make a commitment, you will always go to phase 2, because what happens? From going on the live sessions on Niels, you will hit stop losses. From calling people will say no. People will say it's a scam. People will say it's a, you get what I mean? All those kinds of things. And in that phase, what happens is we come into a phase where we come into informed pessimism. Now you get informed, oh, it's not that easy. Oh, people can say no. Oh, I can hit stop losses. You get it?
Yeah.
Or, for example, hey, I made my UGC portfolio, but nobody's responding. No company is responding to me. Or, for example, you start working out and you say like, oh, it doesn't feel really nice to do this every single day. Or you start reading books, you're like, oh, I get really... not frustrated, but you get easily distracted. So in this phase where you get into informed pessimism, you get informed more. Still not about the whole journey. You still don't know what you don't know, but you get informed a little bit more.
Yeah.
For me, this was a very hard phase because I just told you, I came into this business 2 months trading, everything went good, honestly. But then network marketing started. And I was like, oh, easy. My mentor told me in 2 weeks, you need to hit the rank of silver. Then I will give you a certain amount of money. You can quit your job. You go all in. It's like, okay, easy. So I make this list and I have a power hour that I was doing. And I was still, like I said, I was in uninformed optimism completely. So I called. We had like 2 hours of power hour. I invited 90 people with some good strategies. And out of 90 people, I think like 50 showed up or something.
Whoa.
And then from 50 that show up, only 25 wanted to go on a call with me after that. And from 25, 0 got started.
So you invited 90 people.
Yes.
90.
Yeah, I had 90 confirmations
and
technically.
0 people got started.
Yeah, 0 people got started.
I can imagine that it brings a little bit pessimism inside of
Yeah,
you.
now because obviously optimism is seeing it from a positive perspective. Now I was like, instantly I was like, I truly believed I couldn't do it at all. I was like, no one will join me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just because an external situation happened, I was like, oh shit. But what people have to understand, every phase is a test. Every phase is a test because God will always look how bad do you want it.
Yeah.
So I believe God also made this for us, right? Everything is made on purpose to make sure that we can transform and get better. So he's looking, hey, how are you thinking in that phase? So I was like, oh my God, 25 people didn't get started. Technically 90 people.
Yeah.
But I had to hit the rank in 2 weeks. Now, I was already 1 week now out, 0 people. But in that moment, you have a decision and choice you can make. What's also important to understand is it's not always that if you go from stage 1 to stage 2, you have to go to 3 and 4 before you go to 5.
Okay.
You know what happened for me? I went 1 and 2, but because my mentality was very strong, I went instantly to 5. Because it's how I dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
Because I went to 19 team partners in 1 week personally.
The second week.
Yeah, the second week.
Whoa.
And I hit the silver and I got it, right?
Yeah.
So once again, it's not about what happens in life. It's about how you respond to it because your response will always bring you the new outcome that you have, right?
Okay.
So in this phase, this was a phase for me where I first got introduced to, right? So my mentor already here gave me the training. So I also understood it.
Yeah.
So also that's why I was like, okay, it's normal to get no's. It's normal to have losses in trading. It's normal to blow your account, which I did with my first live account. So once I got into stage 2, I was like, okay, but this is what he told me in the training. So it's part of the game, So that really helped me personally to have the right perspective onto that. So I think also a big thing that people have within this phase is this is the first phase where you have your first down moment, right? Your first dip. And once again, even if you're already longer in business and you've been through the phases, if you start with something new, it happens again. So people see it as a red flag, but it's actually a green flag because it shows you actually that there's progress being made, right? Just like, for example, with the butterfly, he's sitting in the cocoon and he's like, okay, this is not nice. This is less comfortable, but eventually it will make him grow towards the butterfly. Now, once again, what you do in this phase is very important. So like I said in the beginning, hey, you can't skip the phases. But I said hey, I went from phase 2 to 5. What you have to understand with this is how you react in phase 2 more depends how fast you go through phase 3 and 4. Okay. So it's not that I skipped them, but I think I was in a valley of despair. Yeah. And I came to a point of, obviously when I got the first 3, signups, I definitely came to informed optimism. Yeah. But I went through it so fast. So you can also see how amazing it is to understand what your mindset and mentality can do.
Okay. So you really adjusted to the phases.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah, so you explained about how you moved from the second phase very fast to the fifth phase, like to the success, right? But if people are listening right now and they're maybe going through the phase 2, they're going through informed pessimism. What is the mentality people should have in this phase to really go to like the success that they want as fast as possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously when I came to my mentor and I didn't had 25 people say no to me, I was like, this doesn't work, Yeah. And he told me from the book Rich Dad Poor Dad that some people say this doesn't work, or some people can say, how can I make it work? Or you can say, I will make it work. So it's all about how you talk to yourself, which is a good podcast about that we already have. Yeah. What I personally for myself did is my mentor told me a sentence that changed my life. He said, everything happens for a reason. If people say no, it happens for a reason. If you have stop losses, it happens for a reason. The question you should ask yourself is, hey, maybe you don't know instantly why it happens for a reason, but what you can ask yourself, how can I get better? How can I actually get better? And mainly, what can I learn from this? So I didn't sign up 25 people. I went with my mentor on the call and he asked me, hey, how do you present the business? And I showed him that I went to Google. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. Obviously, when you go to Google and you look up graphic of Forex chart, or you just explain them lot sizes.
Yeah.
So in this phase, the first mentality, like I said, you should have is like, hey, everything happens for a reason. The second one is, hey, what is this teaching me? But mainly important in this phase, ask questions. Like we all have a mentor that has been through this already. So ask them questions. So I already asked him as well, like, hey, how do I have to go through this? What do I need to adjust? And that's when he was able to mentor me also through it and really show me like, hey, look, you need to build relationships on calls with people. I started doing that. Only thing I needed, because then the next 3 people sign up, and maybe I was still in a Valley of Despair, a hard moment, but I was instantly going almost to informed optimism. I was like, oh, wow, it's actually working.
Yeah.
Things are going better, which I will talk about in a second as well. So the mentality is really a mentality based on faith. You are in this journey, so trust the process.
Okay. So I know that when we met, like the phase that a lot of people were in back then, a lot of people were talking always about, oh, I'm in the valley. I'm not going through I'm going through a hard time. A lot of people said that back then. Now we're like a few years later, and I think nobody knew what a valley was if they know what we've been through. But like if you look at like this next phase, like what would you say that is something that you see, something maybe that you experienced in these phases, in this third phase, the Valley of Despair you told, and how has it been for you?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, obviously I went through phase 1, phase 2, and very fast to phase 5, pretty much, right? But after that, what happened is obviously I will talk about it later. But when you come into phase 5, it will repeat again. So. Okay, now I was like, I think it was March 2021. I hit that silver rank. I bought my scooter to go to the office. I went full and with all time with the business. But then for months, almost no results, And I think for a long time, I went back to, I would say the first phase. I was living again in some uninformed optimism. I was like, now the business will just flow. Everything will go fine. But at the same time, I saw, oh shit, people aren't joining. No numbers were joining. Trading was going really bad.
Yeah.
So in this phase, it took me long before I got in my first actual valley at that moment. But what is important for people to know, a lot of people go really fast from informed pessimism to the Valley of Despair. Really fast. Why? When people have, let's say their trading account, their first live trading account, they have 100 euros on it and they lose 50 euros. Most people from there will also blow their account, Once that happens, they will pull themselves into a dark cloud about themselves, right? Or like into a valley, pretty much. That's what we're saying. Yeah. And in this valley, they just don't see any way out. There is no external results because also in this moment, most people stop doing the work. They only start complaining. They only start thinking negatively. They only start overthinking a lot of times. And this is what happens in the phase of the Valley of Despair is overthinking all the time. And a person who only thinks about thoughts has nothing to think about their thoughts. Yeah. But their thoughts are most of the times a fear that they have for the future or some kind of anxiety that they get because they weren't good enough in the past, right? So I see a lot of people go really fast through this phase in the Valley of Despair, and we have to understand 95% of the people quit in this phase.
So,
like in every area of life.
Those are big numbers.
Yes. So let me give an example. You get into a relationship. In the beginning, it's amazing, right? Everything is fine. You get into this honeymoon phase, right? Then you start realizing, let's say you're staying a little bit longer with that person. You're like, that irritates me. That irritates me as well. This wasn't so easy. Oh, well, without makeup, isn't that? You know what I mean?
This version is not perfect.
It changes, right?
Yeah.
But once again, people didn't make the commitment also in a relationship most of the times. So eventually they go really fast from, like, they have a few arguments and they're immediately like, oh, we're in a fight. It's not going well. This can't work out, right?
Yeah.
And then they come into the Valley of Despair and they're only fighting. And in this moment, people then just quit. Yeah. They instantly quit.
True.
So they quit because they either go out of the opportunity, out of the relationship, out of the studies, out of the business, or what they do is they get something which is called SOS, right? Which is called shiny object syndrome. Okay. Which is very common to get in this phase, right? And once again, this is very relatable now, what I'm going to say for most people, because then they understand why most people quit. So once again, if you don't make a commitment, in phase 2 and phase 3, there's no hype. There's most of the times no excitement. There's most of the times no external results really. But what is needed in that phase most time, which I will tell you in a second, is something that is also an emotion still, but is a high frequency, which I'll tell you in a second. But because they didn't make the commitment, now that the feeling is away, there's no commitment that they made. If you make the commitment and you say, I'm going to do it regardless of how I feel, then there you will feel bad. You don't feel good maybe. You have doubts and fear, but your commitment should be bigger than your fear or any doubts. That's why we create what we do in the beginning of the journey, to help people find their why. You get it?
Yeah.
Their why is their commitment.
Yeah.
Their why is the only commitment. Goals also aren't really commitment. It's your why, because your why is an emotion most of the time.
Yeah. And your why is actually something that comes from something in your life, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just to clarify for everyone who's listening who doesn't know what a why means.
Yeah, a perfect example for that is, do you know Lukaku, the football player?
I'm not a football player.
Yeah, that's better. I'm also not a football player guy, but Lukaku is a guy from Belgium.
Yeah.
He plays very high professional football.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was very young, his parents were really broke, like extremely broke. And when they would go and eat, their mother, wouldn't just have money to, buy even milk.
Yeah.
So they would eat, I don't know how you really call it, some kind of pop. You say it in Dutch, right? I don't really, oatmeal, something like oatmeal, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is he would be upstairs and he heard his mother crying downstairs. He's like, what is going on? Because food wasn't ready yet, So he walked downstairs, he looks around the corner of the stairs, and his mother is like pouring in water into the packages of the milk while she was crying like crazy, and he didn't understand it. So he went upstairs and he started thinking, he was like, oh wow, we probably are so broke that we don't have money for milk, that we have to pour water into it.
Oh my gosh.
And in that moment he made the commitment, right? He created his why, and his why was, I will become the best football player ever, and I will make sure my family will never ever experience this. So he can go into football and think everything is going to be fine. Stage 2, maybe an accident happens, right?
Yeah.
He breaks his toe, but he keeps going. Why? The commitment. Then, for example, he didn't get chosen for a bigger team or a bigger league. He keeps going. Valley of Despair, he gets a red card, he gets kicked out for the season. Maybe he keeps going because his commitment was so strong and his why is really strong. But what SOS really means is it means shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people get here. And they're in this relationship, and then the girl's like, oh yeah, but that guy provides me safety. And now I don't have that right now, so let me go to another relationship. Oh yeah, but I don't like my studies here. It's not going well, so let me find other studies. Yeah, so handball doesn't work. Let me go into hockey. Trading doesn't work. You know what? Maybe I should check UGC. Maybe that's better. Network marketing doesn't work. I'm only going to trade. So people quit so fast as well most of the times, and they just stop the opportunity. Then they go into something we call the habit of quitting.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because why do I mean habit of quitting? You're probably like, why is it then a habit, right? When people quit. Because people have a habit of quitting. Why? When they stop at, let's say, right, you start here, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, it's the low moment. What most people do is think, oh, I'm going to start UGC. But they start again at the first phase, at the first stage, and they don't understand this.
Uninformed optimism, right?
Oh, UGC? Oh, yeah, but that is easy. I just have to send a few people some messages. I have to make a portfolio. That's it. Network marketing does work. So let me just go fully into training. Let's say they never did training. Oh, so you just press a button and then you make the money again. So again, they come into the same cycle.
Yeah.
But because they have this mentality and habit of quitting, they will quit in everything.
So that means that actually people who create the habit of quitting then start all over again, get the reality check, like, it's not going to go that easy, and then they're going to go to the Valley of Despair again. When they're in the Valley of Despair, they start something new, and that's how people keep quitting, right?
Yes.
Relationships, businesses, everything that you just told me.
Yeah, perfect
That's
example.
crazy.
It's like the same thing where people say, that's why we most times say, we don't say a lot, but it is true, the grass isn't greener on the other side.
The grass is greener where your others.
Yes, exactly. So you were the one that got yourself into the first stage.
Yeah.
You should get yourself through the second stage and the third stage, but also understand there's people around you. Here in FTP, there's people around you that can help you. You can talk about what's going on. You can talk about the phase you're going through. And many people here, what they do is they isolate themselves. They isolate themselves and they think, hey, I'm going to get stuck in my head with my own thoughts, my own reality. But in that moment, what you need is a lot of times you need your mentor to get you out of it. Mainly, most people need it in the first time that they go through the phase. But what is mainly important is that you go back. Why did you even start? Because
The why.
if the why is clear, the how will not matter. And most people in this phase think, how am I going to do it?
So I'm very interested in this habit of quitting, right? Because what I understand correctly, like you just have to confirm, but when people or like when we are gonna have the habit of quitting, we will never achieve stage 5, which is success, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when we want to create, let's say, a habit of winning, maybe, or like a habit, like when we really want to go to that success, like what do you think is the difference between the quitters and between the winners in this phase? Because I think, like what you said, like the third stage is the hardest. What is the behavior or the way that people act who are going for that success, who are getting that success, in contrast to the people who are quitting constantly?
Yeah, good question. So like I said, the first thing is just the commitment, right?
Yeah.
And the why. That people will just say, hey, I will do it regardless,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter how I feel, doesn't matter what happens in life, I will keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was from a movie, right? That they say it doesn't matter how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, right? The second thing I think is that you have faith, right? Because faith is believing in the things hoped for but not seen.
Yeah.
In stage 3, there is no external evidence of results.
Of success.
Yes, of success or results, like tangible wins, you know? So what happens, we all need to understand is success is something that you are. In stage 3, it's exactly as the caterpillar being in a cocoon. He's being prepared to become a new person, because you can never get new things in life. So the success you want, there's not new things. This cycle is not about getting new things. This cycle is about becoming a new person. You can never get something new in life. You just become a new person. Therefore, you attract new things into your life. So in this phase, and I know you also been through a lot of times the valley of despair, right? And now you became an elite. If you look back at it, you're probably also thinking like, oh, wow, I actually went maybe the last few weeks or last few months through that valley. But you see now you became elite because of how you responded to it, right? So how did you respond? With probably faith. Hey, I'm in a hard situation right now. I'm in the dark tunnel. And I don't see light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to come. So that's the second mentality that most of these people have, right? And I would say the last mentality that most people should have, right, is that they can never, because most people also start comparing. You can never compare your chapter 1 with someone's chapter 10, right? And let's say the chapters, every chapter is a cycle again. Most people look at their mentor in a wrong way. You should look at them as an inspiration instead of something to compare to. So your mentality should be, if I follow my mentor, I will go through this phase anyway because they've been through it. But when you then get feedback, when you get coaching, you should actually from here start really implementing that and start changing really small things because if you change small things will change. And to go through phase 4, where small things are changing, you first need to change small things before the new changes come. Right? We must change ourselves to let things change. So that's the mentality you should also have, is like, hey, I just now need to work on myself and reflect on, hey, what is that exactly that I need to work on right now? That's where you will find the breakthrough to go actually very fast to phase 4.
Okay, so that's how you climb out of that valley towards the next little bit more of an up, right?
Yes.
Stage 4, maybe you can talk about
I can give a perfect example how it from stage 2 to 3 and 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So like I said, for months now, no signs. Trading wasn't really going good. So I went on a vacation for 3 weeks. I started drinking substances you shouldn't drink. And I went to my valley. What happened is I lost all my money. I didn't have a job, obviously, because I already quit. My team started quitting as well. Trading went bad, so everything went wrong. I was in the valley of despair.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to a job at that moment, right? So in that moment, I was like, I'm going back to the job already 8 months into the business, right? Right now, I have no trading results. I couldn't even show people the business because I was like, I don't have results.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I had the choice and a decision to make. Do I keep going or do I quit? Well, I went back to what my mentor said, winners never quit and quitters never win, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just keep going, because also life, when you go through these phases, life will, yes, help you as well. But I see it like this. Let's say we use God, universe, life, however you want to call it, is they're steering the wheel, but you're rowing. So you have to row, and God will help you 100% to go through the phase as well, because you're not alone. So what happened for me is I came to this point where I had to change things. So my mentor told me, hey, you have to start making a financial plan. You have to go back to your job. Measure your finances really good this time, because I wasn't doing that. He said, make sure to do risk management with trading. He said, make sure to never leave your team again for so long. So stage 3 made me learn things that I still till this day apply. If I never went through the hard moment, I would have never learned anything there, you know? We also, for the watchers, we never learn really in just highs. We learn the most in the down moments.
Yeah.
Because there's no highs without lows. You know what I mean?
True.
But then I went to stage 3. Why? I had to go to an event. I had no money. Everybody probably knows this story. I had no money. I had 8 euros in my bank account. My parents paid for me. My mentor paid for me. And I went there. And on this event, they told me visualization. They told me writing your goals down. They told me consistency, discipline. Again, I made a commitment. So also for people to know, every cycle again, you make commitments. And it becomes a stronger commitment, right? So what happened now is I started having some signups again. Some trades went good. Then NFTs came on my path, which I made some nice money with, right? So out of nowhere, I came to the 4th phase, which is informed optimism. Now you're more informed. You're like, oh, people quit. Oh, you get stop losses. Oh, you need to do risk management. Oh, you need to have a journal. Oh, you need to build relationships with people, not just talk about the business or just present it. And you also need to do, for example, what I had to do is I needed to do personal development, right? Listen to podcasts. So because I started doing new things, guess what? New small actions give new results. And what in this phase, very important to go from phase 3, the valley of despair, to phase 4, is what I call getting the feeling of achievement. Just start achieving the small goals again. Because like I said, in phase 3, there's no external results. Then people want to, again, go for silver, but just go for rising star first. Just go for, instead of 1% clip for the whole month, just do that 1% that week. Just do it that week. And celebrate it then as well. Because once you start stacking small wins and celebrating them, that's when you can go into compounding that results and go to phase 5. But still, to go into phase 4, we have to understand that in this phase, you're now having different routines. You now have a different mindset, a different way of thinking. And most people try to solve the same problems in their life with the same way of thinking. But we should be grateful for phase 3, because phase 3 has to change our way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
We always say that, most people only change when they have to, right?
Yeah.
When it's painful. So once again, God brings you into that season for a reason, and then you go into phase 4 because you just start changing. But if you don't change, nothing changes. Also very important, there's a lot of people that stay stuck in phase 3 months. Really a long time.
Years also.
Yes. Years, months. People lack one thing, and it's called courage. People really need courage.
For what?
The courage to go back into action. The courage to talk about their feelings. The courage to tell themselves, hey, I am good enough. The courage to tell themselves, this is a phase that I just have to go through. Because most people stay in a victim mentality there. That's how you never get to phase 4.
Yeah. You're talking about courage, right? Like about that people need to have the courage to really climb themselves up, right, to the 4th stage, and really get out of that valley of despair. But what would you say about belief? Because I can imagine, like, when you have, maybe in the beginning you had like little successes, but then probably your results, as you said, went down. Then you're in the valley of despair. There's no literal evidence of results of success. But you still have to get belief also, I would say, to really climb up that mountain and go to that success, right? So you need courage. But would you also say belief? And how do you think that that's important in this phase and in stage 4 to really get that success?
Yeah, so the thing is, most people think they need belief in stage 3.
Yeah.
But it's that you need faith, right?
Yeah.
Now, belief only comes by seeing. So in that moment, you don't see anything of results. So it's hard to believe. And most people also say, hey, I don't believe anymore. That's why I quit. But once again, faith is believing in the things hoped for, but not seen. So belief is like believing things that you've seen and you know you can have.
Yeah.
But faith is believing what you really can't see yet, right? And also hoping for that. And this for me was very important because once you start having faith, and you start putting in the actions with faith combined with the courage. That's why I said courage is feeling fear but doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Courage is not believing but doing it anyway. You know what I mean? that will bring you into, once again, the action. And the actions is in this moment, people even think if they put in the actions, they still don't get results. But now that they change, most people are not aware that they're changing their mindset.
Yeah.
Now that they do the action with a different energy behind it, faith, courage. Courage, by the way, is the first energy, like frequency on the emotional guidance scale that brings you to a higher frequency, actually.
Okay.
So now you do it in a different frequency. Of course, your results will also be different. That will make you believe, right? So if we also look at the momentum cycle, it starts with action, that brings experience, that brings confidence, and confidence brings you into belief, right?
Yeah.
So do I say people shouldn't believe at all? No, but in that moment, it's most times so hard that people need to have faith, right? And once again, there's still a difference in faith and belief, I would say.
And then in stage 4, you get that belief because you get the little results and you're compounding and stacking the small wins.
Yes. And what's very important to understand, now you go from, I hope this works, to I know this works. Because now you look back and like Steve Jobs said, now you can connect dots because you're like, this brought me to where I am right now.
Yeah.
And therefore also you get more belief because you're now like, I understand the cycle. For the people now watching, once you get again to informed optimism, you're like, I understand the cycle.
Yeah.
But what happens, because you then get the results, you get more belief, and that belief will give you the right energy, because it's even a higher frequency than courage, to get into a massive action. And then you get fast to success as well, right?
Yeah.
But only if you stay consistent, right, with the things you started doing in the valley.
Yeah.
So again, going to the gym. Again, I don't know, reading. Because
personal momentum maybe also.
Yeah, you get into personal momentum for this, but most people, when they get into informed optimism, they stop.
Yeah.
Because they feel good again, and they're like, I feel good again.
And then they don't reach stage 5.
No, they don't reach stage 5. So also stage 5 doesn't just come like flowing there. It just, you have to
work for it.
You have to really stay consistent. But because you get belief, that definitely gets you there really
Gives
fast.
that push.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So stage 4 is interesting, but I like stage 5. I want to know everything. How can I get to that success? How can I get from like the valley all the way up to the success and to everything that I want and everything that I started for in the first place? Even if it's like the relationship, the business, the things that I started with, I started because I want the success, right? I really am a results-driven person, let's say like that. So I want to go for that success. How do I get to stage 5 and don't stay stuck in stage 4 and fall back into the valley?
Yeah, so when I came, story time, right? So I already told you I had months of no signups, nothing. Then I went to that event, which changed everything for me, right? Then after that, I came into the informed optimism again because I had some more people joining. Trading went better. I found NFTs. And what I did really in that moment, like I already said, is like really being consistent. But what I just again, in informed optimism, when you get belief again, you should again make a commitment, like, now I know it works. Let me really like keep this going. So I made a commitment again, which is interesting because you should make it, obviously, in my opinion, every single morning you make a commitment towards your commitment.
Explain.
So you made a commitment in the beginning, and every morning when you wake up, you decide, do I commit to it or not?
Oh, yeah, that's
Get
good.
it?
Yeah.
But once again, you can have multiple commitments in life. Like you can have a commitment for relationship, you can have a commitment for leadership, you can have a commitment for building the business. It can be for FTP,
Yeah.
So I made the commitment at the event, like I'm going to director. I'm going there, Now I wrote down for myself at that moment also, that's a new action I was doing really consistently every day. I'm so happy for now that I have 100 plus team partners. And I had back then like 30 people, right?
Yeah.
So I went from, in my valley, I went from back then 19, I went to the valley 9, then to informed optimism, it was from 9 till 30. And I wrote down, so happy for now that I have 100 plus team partners because my mentor told me this is what you have to do to change your belief.
Yeah.
And what now happened is not only did I make a lot of cheeseburgers with NFTs at that moment, not only did I create, I think we had 3 golds that we created back then, 1 platinum as well. We went from those 30 people, not to 100, also not to 150, not to 180, not to 200, not to 250. We went to 260 people after that.
Whoa.
So also for people to know, the success you're maybe expecting, it can even be more. But it just depends on how hard are you working after getting out of that valley. How committed are you every single day? Are you going to lean back again? If you then fully go, like you said, I came into personal momentum. And that personal momentum gave me momentum in every area of my life. I quit my job again. full into the business. Started my own office in Tilburg back then. I had the first person in my business also get to the 2,000 cheeseburgers a month level. I helped so many people, and out of nowhere, I had a huge organization. And I was even, so that was December 2021. I was even like 10, 15 people away from being elite after only a year. But what's interesting, you look at the year, and still at 9 months, I had 19 partners. So everything here still was going through the whole cycle.
Yeah.
And going through it also like multiple times. When you look at the higher time framing trading, the day chart, you see this, but also on the 1 minute, you see this all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So what it did for me really is to, like I said, is to be consistent, to work hard, to be committed, to really start believing bigger. And then once you start doing that and you keep doing that and don't expect the results, but just expect that when you work hard, the results will come. Then you focus on the actions. So you focus on the actions, then the results will always come regardless. And for me, it came even bigger than I could have ever imagined. The longer also the value of the spiral will take, the bigger the results will be at stage 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, so if people stay stuck in the valley for a long time, they get big success.
Yes, it's just like let's say God had like a catapult, right? The further he pulls us back, the further we will shoot out again.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's very interesting.
That's a good perspective, huh?
Yeah, because why that's interesting to me is because you already told us, like, if you have a hard phase in the valley, right, where you have like hard times, they also say like hard times create strong men create create easy times. You know the saying, right? When you would say, like, in business or in relationships or in every phase, and people really go from that valley of despair to the success, would you say, like, because what I see in definitely in the world nowadays, in the new money world, that a lot of people are not humble anymore. A lot of people don't remember where they came from, don't remember that they were in the valley. And if I look at you as a person, I really see you as someone who, even though the results that you've gotten, you will always be someone who is humble and who's someone who remembers where you came from, right? So what would you say that people need from stage 3 to stage 5 to actually make sure that they stay humble and they keep remembering who they were, so that they can also help other people in those phases?
Yeah. So it's good that you ask this question, because a lot of people can get ego very fast at stage 5.
Yeah.
And this is where people start self-sabotaging themselves mainly. But I would say most, like you said, people stop being humble, right? And we always say pride becomes before the fall.
Yeah.
So there's also a lot of times where people go into stage 5. Stage 5, by the way, is the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
But we all know that the top of the mountain is the bottom of the next one, right?
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of people then go, because this is not a checkpoint, right? Stage 5 is not a checkpoint. Stage 5 is just, how could I say it the best way? So stage 5 is not the end of the cycle. Stage 5 is again a checkpoint for the longer cycle. Because after this, you will go into the same cycle again. Because at stage 5, once you get that pride, for example, right?
Yeah.
What happens is, again, you get very optimistic. But again, for the longer cycle, you get to stage 1 because you're again uninformed. Because now there's a new level, and every level has its level, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't know at that moment what they're going to face again. So now, for me, like, I hit 260 people. I was like, okay, well, the team will keep growing like this.
Yeah.
Now it's just all good. And it went to 190, right?
Yeah.
Now, luckily, I recovered fast, because once again, I saw the stages that I was going through. I was like, again, oh shit, I'm going again to stage 1, again to stage 2. Then stage 3 came again. Went through that pretty fast, I would say, honestly, because now, once again, I understood the first phase and my mentor already told me. So that's why it's such a power to know this.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to your question, when you're asking me like, hey, you know, what makes that, for example, I was very humble, is that I already knew that this was just a checkpoint.
Yeah.
I already knew there's so much more bigger things coming. And in this moment, most people start also changing their action. They become too big for the small things. But if you become too big for the small things, you will always be too small for the bigger things, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And in my personal opinion, if you don't keep going from that level, you will just fall back again, you know?
Yeah.
Or, for example, when people don't become humble at the moment and realize that in the end of the day, God brought them through that cycle, and now they're taking all the praise for getting through everything. You know, they're like, I did it myself, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you fall into ego in one area, it's very easy to get ego into all the other areas in your life, you know? I have to say, I've had hard times with this, but it's more that I always remembered, like you said, who I was. You know, I always remembered little Luke, you know, starting with this, not knowing anything. So I think it's important to know that you just don't know it all.
Yeah.
And that once you got success, the first level, God got you there, right? And he's working through you for it. And it's a very important, I know some people don't believe in it, maybe universe or whatever, but to understand that they themselves didn't only got them there, there's something bigger than them that got them there. And they should be thankful for the bigger, I would say, God, universe, or life, you know, for helping them through it. Because that's how I always stay, how I try to always stay humble, knowing without God, I could have probably never gone through it. Does it make sense?
You believe in something bigger than yourself, which makes yourself feel smaller or something.
Yes, I would say, like one of my mentors once told me, he said, Luke, sometimes you need to go outside, look at the stars and realize how small you are, actually. Like how small you are.
Yeah.
And we human beings can be very ignorant and also arrogant. And once again, I've had pride once in my life when I hit my director level in the former company, and my fall came after that. So it is true. Always pride comes before the big fall.
You just explained everything about actually the 5 stages, right? Like if stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you already told it a little bit, like if we look at like the whole cycle in your journey, because for yourself, you're already doing online entrepreneurship for like 4.5 years. I can imagine 4.5 years has not been like one cycle. You already told that, like it has been a bigger cycle, higher time frame, smaller time frame. It's multiple cycles in one, right?
Yeah.
How would you say that these time frames, let's call it like that, really like how can you recognize them? Because maybe you're somewhere in a valley, but maybe in other parts of your business, maybe you're more in a already going to stage 4 and going up that mountain again.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, yeah, you can be in, I see it like this, right? So you can be, for example, in personal growth, in momentum again, but not in numbers, right? I believe that how you think, feel, and act is the main line that brings every other level to that. So let me explain it. So let's say here's personal level going, right? So like development, but here's our results. Our results will always catch up to that in every area of life, right? So that can be, for example, you're working out, you're reading, you're doing calls, all those kinds of things, but the results aren't there. One day you will be more jacked, you will get more people to join your team, you will hit your ranks.
Yeah.
But let's say a lot of people sometimes go hard into results, but their development level isn't going up. Eventually it will also go to that level, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say with this is, when it comes down to recognizing the phase and understanding the phases, is to first understand that, yes, the results are the outcome always of who you are.
Yeah.
Okay? And everything affects everything in the end of the day, right? So how your gym life goes will affect how your business life goes. Or your business life goes will affect how your financial life goes. So it will all come together, right? It's also connected, and maybe not at the same time, it's all at the same level, but one day it will all come to the same level on average, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Well, very simple. You just ask yourself, what phase am I in? What phase am I in? Am I in phase 1? Am I in uninformed optimism? Am I now really unrealistic? Am I being uninformed maybe about things? Okay, fine. Okay, good. Then I know and I can prepare myself for maybe hard times coming, right? But what I also try to do is be a little bit realistic more for myself. Set small goals for myself so I can achieve them. Boom. You get to the second stage. Oh, I ask myself, okay, which stage am I in? Okay, I'm in the second stage. Right now, I realize it's not that easy. It's actually harder than I thought it is. But how can I prepare myself again to go to the next level? Is to know, maybe I'll get more no's. Maybe I'll get some few yeses and then a lot of no's after that. Maybe some other area of my life goes wrong. But I should know that everything happens for a reason. What can I already learn from this? Oh, maybe I'm in the valley of despair or any other area. You just ask yourself, where am I at right now? And then in that moment, just look at what can I control? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of times people that try to change them things. Because once again, it's the emotional cycle of change. You know, you can only
change.
Yeah, you can only change yourself.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Internally with yourself, the things, your actions you're doing, how you think, and how you feel.
Mm.
If you try to change external things, that also wouldn't change. Yeah, but my mentor needs to do this. Yes, but the Wi-Fi monitors need to change. Yeah, but the office isn't working for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that moment, people have to understand that they have to be aware. I'm in a phase right now, and I am where I am also because of me.
Mm.
You also got yourself there because of
Yeah.
also the choice that you make.
Take ownership for a situation that you're in. Maybe.
100%.
Yeah.
But once again, nothing in life is good or wrong. So if you brought yourself into a certain situation where you may be in a valley, like if I now start doing like substances I shouldn't use, I know I'm going to go into a valley of despair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't use it and don't do it because I know that that's going to bring me there. You know,
Yeah.
so you also need to be able to understand. You need to take ownership also of where you are. But once again, you go through it for a reason. You know, God brings you through it for a reason, and you just choose how fast you go through it.
So if we look at overall all the phases, right, or all the stages, I should say, like I can imagine a lot of people. Also, if I think about myself, maybe back in the days, I would think of myself as a failure when I was in the valley of despair, right? But as you just said, like you have to grow maybe through these phases to actually get to that success. But what would you say to people who feel like maybe they're a failure, or maybe feel like they are failing because of going through the stages? Maybe you can give them a perspective how this emotional cycle of change actually brings them to a higher place.
That's a good question. Yeah, so a lot of people think they need to be perfect, right? A lot of people think that things need to go their way, right? So because it's not that they are failing or they are a failure, they perceive themselves to be a failure once again because we are in a reward and punishment system, right? So people think I'm a failure because something is going wrong. Well, the thing is, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be talented. You don't have to be perfect. The only thing you need to do in this moment, even though when you feel like you're a failure, most time this feeling comes from the past, you should tell yourself and know only one thing, is if you just don't quit, you will always win on the long term. You will always win. Once again, winners never quit and quitters never win, right?
Yeah.
But in these moments, like it's just important, don't quit, but also don't let your emotions like fluctuate so much, you know? And I know obviously I've had this many times where my emotions were all over the place, highs, lows all the time.
Yeah.
Never make a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion. Everything in this cycle and everything in life, what I learned, nothing will ever stay the same and everything eventually changes. So if you even feel like you're a failure, in that moment you can learn, oh, I should start talking to myself differently. Where does it even come from that I feel like a failure? Where does it even come from that I think I am a failure? That's just society. With this, I'm also like really passionate about talking about this because I did this training many times because it helped me so much that I was like, wow, it's not the whole world and the system that can choose who I am. No, I am a winner because I go through this because I am a person with courage. I'm a person with resilience. And because of that, I know life is happening for me and not to me, you know? No one is ever a failure. You are only a failure if you quit.
Okay.
That's it. That's
So
when
never
you
quit.
failed. Never quit.
That's the only rule.
That's the only rule.
Okay, so if we look at all the stages, we look at all the cycles of change and all the things that we know now, we should not quit, we should win, we should have courage, we should really go and evolve and take ownership for that change, right? What is one thing that you maybe didn't say yet, or maybe that you want to add to everything that you just shared with us?
I mean, a perfect example I can give with what I want to add is that obviously also as a whole FTP, we go through cycles, right? So 2024 was kind of a valley of despair, right? Then we had our, I would say, success in the beginning of the year, and half through 2025, we also had a little valley of despair. But what I can truly say is that what I think we do very good with FTP and what everybody should do, obviously we want success, right? But you don't want it once, you want it multiple times. So if you want it multiple times, when you come to that level, never forget to celebrate your progress. Most people don't celebrate because they don't feel worthy of celebrating what they actually achieved. So celebrate it. Then what you should also do, which is a very important one, is the smartest people I know really learn from their past. So also reflect then on the cycle that you've been through. There's a lot of answers to find it, right? Through reflection.
Yeah.
And last but not least is to really just prepare for the next cycle. And just know, once again, next cycle, if you don't quit, you will win, because winners never quit and quitters never win.
And if this episode helped you grow, make sure you check out the previous episode about how to find your purpose, because that will give you more clarity on why you feel what you feel. Remember, you're not broken, you're just in a phase. Keep going.